kids need new tools to navigate the challenges they face in the world. Can anyone relate? In this podcast, you'll hear from parents, educators, and other experts who can bring perspective to the monumental job of parenting. We can't count on anyone else. We have to be warriors for our kids. This is the Warrior Parent Podcast. I'm Marci Mitchell.
I'm Debbie DiManno. As parents, we understand that we are partners with schools and other leaders in our community. Join us as we use the science of an educational process known as SEL, that stands for Social Emotional Learning, as well as proven mind-body techniques to create a collection of exercises and tools for kids in all age groups.
Today we are speaking with each other. After a couple of cancellations, we felt called to talk a bit about connection and the isolation and heaviness that so many are experiencing right now. Please stay with us for this uplifting conversation. Hey, so welcome back, everyone, to the Warrior Parent Podcast. This week, we had not one, but two of our interviews canceled because the world is going crazy right now a little bit. And we keep hearing people are having these just really challenging experiences in their lives. And I have personally also been in that place, and I just finding it all over. So Debbie and I thought, let's still do an episode today and just talk a little bit about that, what's going on in the world, what feels like a lot for, I think, a lot of people, and maybe some ideas about ways that we can walk through this as gracefully as possible without losing our shit too much. To put it as poetically as possible.
And there is the topic for discussion.
How to walk through it without losing your shit.
Without losing your shit. Okay. So everyone's probably super excited to hear about the details.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know. I don't know if you want to speak to some of your situation, or I should speak to some of mine, but it's been like a hell of a week. As long as we're like dropping bombs here, it's gonna do it. But I feel like I've been trying to sort of maintain my own space, and after all these years, I've gotten pretty good about boundaries and holding my container and not taking on too much of other people's shit and stuff. But but this week there were people, like family members and good friends, and they were just their hair is on fire. They call and like, oh my god, like, can I talk to you, can you help me with this? And so you just keep giving and giving and giving and giving, and all of a sudden today I'm a little tapped out. I'm like, why am I so tired? Like, what is going on with me? And, I this is one of my tools, but I went and I belong to this place where you can go get B12 shots and IVs and red light therapy. And I went and did that yesterday. I got my B12 shot, and I'm like, okay, today I'm going to be better. And I'm still tanking a little bit, right?
Sometimes it takes more than just, when you're giving, it, or you're just going through it, it doesn't necessarily just take one thing or one day or one, sometimes it takes a while. That's the experience I'm having.
I know people have mentioned like the Mercury's in retrograde. Like, I don't follow that stuff very much, but I guess it's pop. I mean, whenever
something's going on.
Whenever there's a full moon, I can pretty much count on a couple things. I won't sleep and some of those sort of things. But so anyway, like I had a girlfriend who just like she's really what I consider someone's like really got their shit together, right? And just for whatever reason, out of the blue, she started having these full-blown panic attacks, like can't breathe, can't stop crying, like on the floor moments, and just called, not necessarily even thinking that I could help, but in a panic, like she was ready to go to the emergency room. And so I just did a little of my own talk therapy, and
Yeah.
finally she made it over here to my couch.
Debbie's couch. Yeah.
Debbie's couch. And so then I think, oh, what tools can we use? And for
Mm-hmm.
me, it's the
Mm-hmm.
heart brain coherence, which always really helps. But a lot of it is just talking through it, right?
Processing. Yeah.
Yeah, like just getting down to the like what is really causing it. This
Yeah.
because so many times, right? It's not that superficial thing. It's not that
Right.
that person that said something to you that really bummed you out, or that car that cut you off, or the
Right.
late notice on your bill, whatever thing is, the shit for the day, if you will. But
Yeah.
it's a culmination of things.
Yeah. Yeah. And based on what you were saying about this friend who's really got it together, I think that's like lesson number one for today. It happens to everyone. We're all entitled to have our moments. We all need, I know self-care feels like it's an overused word, but it's important. We need to, we need to take care of ourselves, and then we get to fall apart. Like, especially for moms, as we're talking about families,
Yeah.
we're so often the glue that's holding everything together, and there's no space for us to fall apart. But that's really not okay. It's not sustainable. It's not healthy.
Yeah.
We need that. We need that place. And maybe that's too, is that if you can have that person in your life, and not everybody can call Debbie, but hopefully everybody has a Debbie or someone like that, because I had the same experience as your friend, to where, and I did reach out to you, but I have someone else I reach out to as well. And I was just having a real strong moment with in a kind of a reaction to someone in my life who just was behaving a way that was so triggering for me. But I have for me, it's a minister who I reach out to,
Yeah.
and we talk every week, and we talk through things. And I can't even tell you how transformative that is. And it's not always, sometimes she drops these truth bombs that knock me on my butt, but sometimes
You're
it's
like, wait,
just
wait, wait, wait a minute. Like,
talking. Oh my God, I do. I'll be like, wait, what did you just say? Or, oh, like I'll be in total reaction to something she says that is so, she sees it. Like a lot of times other people can see when we're in it and we can't see. And so having somebody to be able to talk to, and it could be a therapist, but it could also just be a friend, or someone who can be a listening board. They don't have to solve it for you. Sometimes
no.
you'll figure it out yourself, just as you
Yeah.
talk through it and process it.
Well, and I think, isn't that kind of like a woman thing too? Like, because so many times I feel like, I can go to my husband, or but they want to fix it. And
Yes.
that's not
Bless
that's
their
not
hearts.
yeah,
They do.
that's not any negative. That's what they're
Yeah, it's
wired to do, is to fix
yes,
it. It bothers them if you're not
I
doing
know.
well, right? And even this woman who was having this thing, her husband, came home, and he's gonna help her. He left work, like, are you okay? And she's like, I just need some fresh air, and I need to get to a woman, right? I just need to get to a feminine person who I can
Yes.
who I can just let it all go with, right?
Yes.
Like, just the idea that you can cry, and you can cry, and you can cry,
Right,
and
right.
you can cry, and it doesn't matter. She was, she didn't want to do that in front of her husband. And then
Right.
her son was coming home from school, and she didn't want to be a hot mess in
I
front of him. And,
know.
and so sometimes it's okay. Like, I'm having a bad day, but when you're like really, really bad, you can freak them out a little
Right.
bit.
Totally.
Like, wait a
Totally.
minute, like, is
Yeah.
our world falling apart? My mom's falling apart,
It's
right?
so true. But you know what? That just speaks to why we need to dump this super woman
Yeah.
bullshit in the trash can, because we've
Yeah.
created that instead
Yes.
of being human and showing that, hey, I'm overwhelmed right now too. And there is a lot to be said for kind of letting
Yeah.
your kids know, and especially as they get older. I mean, probably even when they're younger, it's okay for them. They're
Yeah.
learning and they're understanding that, to say, hey, I'm having a hard time right now, but I'll be okay. And then
And
the other thing about what you're saying about the men, I've heard before, suggested that if you do want to talk to your husband, and I have that same thing, like, I don't want to, he'll just get so, he wants to solve it. He's really upset that I'm upset, but you can say, listen, I just need you to hear me. I don't need you to fix it. I just want to talk right now. And it's hard for them, but they can be taught too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's changing the way we have conversation, the way we have
Yes. The
communication.
whole
Right.
paradigm. And that's
Yeah.
what we're in the midst of right now on the planet is this.
Yeah.
It just feels like this huge shift. Old ways are dying out. And you know what? Good riddance, because a lot of the old ways are crap and we don't need them.
Yeah.
And they haven't been serving our highest and best. There's so much tied up in these ideas of success and right and wrong and making money and who's worthy of this, and of course racism and sexism and all the other isms. Like, we need to release a lot of that and just start to show up for each other, and in creating a world, and we've said this before, that works for everyone, that supports us all, wherever we are. We're not all CEOs,
Yeah.
we're not all teachers, we're not all artists, but we're all parts of this puzzle, and it all goes together.
Right.
And we all deserve support and respect and space to show up and to be.
Yeah, and kind of going back to that place, I was thinking about, when I was in my 40s, I had a very large health crash, and my kids were little. I had my kids late in life; they were little, and I had a big job, and I had a nanny, and I was so sick, and I didn't eat. I could barely walk. I was just in bed, and this went on for 3 or 4 months, and well, I had 2 nannies and they were there 24/7 for me. But I just locked myself in the room, and they would do their best to, like, oh, mommy's not feeling well. And then that only lasts for a few days. And then at some point I realized, even though they were so little, they were, 2 and 6, because I just didn't want to scare them, but I had to let them come into the room. I had to let them see that I wasn't doing well, but I was going to be okay. I was going to be okay. I just needed a little space. And then, I didn't want to get them sick. And so then that made them feel okay about not coming into the room anymore. But I think it goes to the bigger idea of, we cannot protect our children from every little thing that's going on.
And we
in our
shouldn't.
lives.
We shouldn't. And I would argue that your kids are more sensitive and resilient in a lot of ways, probably because of that. I have experience with both of them, and I see them to be, they seem more awake and aware, which I think this generation is anyway. But, it builds empathy, and just like an ability to be compassionate for others. And as children are obviously very, especially at that age, they're very about themselves, which is okay, but they're also learning how to be in community and in relationships. So
yeah, rough times.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think also, we were talking about, women connecting or whatever. I think just in general, I think the more and more you and I do this, and the more discussions we have here, and the reason, right, that we started this podcast anyway, was to create a community.
Yes.
We wanted a place for people to connect.
Yeah.
And that piece, the connection piece, the relationship piece, just keeps showing up in my life over and over and over and over. And it's in my face, like, every day. Like,
It's so vital.
Why this so incredibly important.
Yeah.
I don't know if you had a chance to watch, but I was just watching the new Netflix series, or HBO, the Blue Zones.
Yes. I saw the ad for that, and I was very interested. I haven't had a chance to watch it yet.
So fascinating. And I was watching it thinking, oh, I'm going to get all these tips and tricks about the food I'm supposed to eat, which I already know. Right. The water, it's the exercise physiologist to me going, okay, like, which of these things am I doing? And I already know all that. And
right. Because the idea is that people in the blue zones live longer. right? That
Yes,
their lives are
they all
extended.
live to
Yes.
be over 100 years old in
Yes.
very large populations, and
Yes.
not just 100 years old, laying in a bed. None of them are in
Active.
homes. None of them are in
Yeah.
homes. They're all taking care of themselves.
Yeah.
Um,
This
and
is so important right now because, as we know, the baby boomers are coming of age. I just heard some statistic on the news the other day about being, this shift from more elderly than young, like happening in America and across the world. This is our population is aging, and how do we want to do it? Do we want to do it in this? I mean, if anyone's ever been in some of these homes, these nursing homes that are the ones that people can afford or that Medicare will cover,
right.
it can be just very sad,
Oh
very
yeah.
devastating situation. And that is not how people want to live out their life. So,
Yes.
yeah.
Yes.
So,
And
this
some of
idea of
them.
an alternative.
Yeah. So, they were in Japan and they had these groups of people, men and women. Typically it's just women who are outliving the men, but it was men and women, right?
Mhm.
And they have these little mini communities, and they are playing games all day. They are
Yeah.
gardening. Talk
Yeah.
about connection, gardening.
Connection to the earth and grounding,
Yeah.
which is one of our tools that we love, getting your feet,
Yes.
your hands into Mother Earth and just feeling those electrons and that connection.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, yes, yes. And then, they moved to Italy, to Sardinia, which I get to go to next year. I'm pretty excited. I was gonna have a
Yay.
bright moment. But in Sardinia, they all climb stairs. So they're exercising
Yes, I saw that
every
scene.
yeah,
Yes.
every day, climbing lots and lots of stairs. Believe it or not, they eat a lot of carbohydrates,
Mm.
because they have their pasta, but all of their food is not sprayed and all those sorts of things. But a lot of vegetables, and pasta,
Yeah.
and fish, of course, could because they live in the
Yes.
sea,
The
right?
Mediterranean
Yeah.
diet.
And
Yes.
and then what was fascinating was, so you're thinking, well, it's just these beautiful places in the middle of the ocean. Of course, they have these, quiet lives and all that. But what was interesting is, one of those places is down in San Bernardino at the base of the mountains, right in uh
Loma
what's the name of
Linda.
it? Loma Linda.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's not far from where I was born.
Yes. And
Yeah.
but their biggest piece was connection, and
Yes.
a connection of something outside of yourself, right? So they're
Yes.
very spiritual. They also, most of them are vegetarian, vegan. Um but they were a community. They showed a bunch of, like, hundreds of them playing pickleball at 10 o'clock at night, right?
Yeah.
But it's the community and the connections. And
Yes.
as I was watching that, I'm like, this is the one thing that was connecting all of those pieces that I've watched so far. There's more. I think there's 6 blue zones, or there's 5. I haven't seen them all, but that
Mhm.
was the one thread that was throughout all of those
Connection.
stories. Yeah.
Yeah.
And they said by doing so, you can be guaranteed to live an extra 7 to 10 years. Can you
Wow.
imagine?
And good years, not
Yes.
bedridden years, but good healthy years.
No, these people are up and about every
I
day.
love that. I love that because, in America, we have this idea that, we have our childhood and we go to school, and then, maybe we're fortunate we're able to go to college, and then, so maybe by 22 to 25 we start a career, and then we're going to work for a long time, and keeps getting longer and longer that you're expected to retire. But
Yeah.
let's say you're fortunate enough to retire at 65, and then are you going to be able to enjoy that? Or is your health not going to be good? Or are you going to be lonely? You're not, you see evidence of seniors living in cars or in RVs, I don't know if anyone saw that movie Nomad. That was like just
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Really horrible to think about these folks getting, maybe they lose their house or something goes awry, and now there's no real safety net. So they're just trying to survive, never mind being in a situation where they're playing pickleball and they're doing
Yeah,
line dancing and they have a safe place, they have good, decent food, and they can enjoy these years because they shouldn't be throwaway years, and
no.
they should not be torture. They should not be suffering. We owe that to our elders to care for them and to let them have this good life. There's a lot of wisdom there. Um, and yeah, I think about that a lot, that we've got all the boomers coming, and what, for people who did well in life and have the money, they're probably going to be fine. But there's
Yeah.
plenty of people out there who are not.
Yeah. Well, as we just discuss so often about, suicidal ideation and the fact that,
Yeah.
every 7 minutes someone in America is taking their life. Well, more and more research I do, what we're learning is it's really mostly about isolation, right?
Yes.
And you would think that, or we all think that we're so connected because we have this thing called an iPhone and social media
Yeah.
and all those things, but we're really, really not connected that way, right? We talked about this before. It's that somebody showing up and you're able to sit on their couch for 3 and 4 hours and let them
Yeah.
cry. That
Yeah.
that's deep connection. It's not a like on your social media or whatever. But
No, that's
I
totally
think
different. Yeah.
I think in America more than anywhere else in the world, it's the isolationism that is going
Yeah.
to kill us all here, right?
Yeah.
As I've traveled in different places around the world, I think of I had an opportunity to go to Bali, Indonesia, and there they all live with their families in these little mini
Yeah.
communities. They just
Yeah.
have these giant homes, or it's basically a bunch of little houses connected,
Yes.
and they all live there together. And it
I
was,
have loved that idea. I have long thought that family compounds or communes or whatever ways where people could live more simply together and share resources and have their own space, but also have communal space. I love that.
yeah, yeah. But
I love
I never saw a child crying or having, because there was always someone
Oh
around
my
them,
gosh. Yeah.
and there was someone loving them, if it was an uncle or an aunt or a
Yes.
grandma or a
That
grandpa or whatever.
multi-generational family is really important.
Yes.
I also know that, like, once, especially for boys, this is a little off topic, but boys who when they go through puberty, there
Hmm.
is like this circle of thought around the need for multi-generational male influence to help lead them into manhood. So this idea that we used to be in tribes, and that when a boy would become a man, the father and the uncles would take him out into the woods, and he would have some sort of a test that proved his manhood. And
Yeah.
but all of these rituals around becoming a man, and women have similar stuff,
Yeah.
but
Rites of
this was
rites of
something,
passage, if you
yeah,
will.
that are
Yeah.
very important to help them come into that. And we don't have that very much right now.
No.
So yeah, there's just a lot of things that we could do to create these community settings.
I
I
I was just thinking of something positive that happened this week. I go down to my girlfriend's house, and our dogs play together. They have these little play dates in the morning, and we were talking about what was going on in the neighborhood. And unfortunately, we have lost 3 men in the neighborhood in the last 2 months. So these women in the neighborhood who are alone right now, and I live in an older established neighborhood with, there's not a lot of young kids. More and more younger
Mhm.
kids are moving in.
Yeah.
But she every Labor Day, everyone gets together in this neighborhood, and she just decided she wanted to have a women's community, right?
Oh, nice. Yeah.
And so she was passing out these flyers, and on the first of next month, there's going to be this women's community, and you don't have to pay for anything, you don't have to do anything, you just show up. Maybe you're
Perfect.
sharing a phone number for a contractor, or you learned how to bake something, or like whatever, right? Like
Right.
this is how they used to do it.
Yes.
This is how women did it. A lot, like my grandma was like big in the church, and like she did
Yeah.
everything there, but that was her tribe, that was her community,
Yes. My
right?
grandmother too, same thing. And then my other
Yeah,
grandmother was golf. And so
yeah,
she had all these women that she golfed with, which is what my mom does now, but she's
yeah,
in a women's network. Then she golfs all the time and loves that.
yeah.
And, for any men who are listening, it's just as important for men, but I just encourage men to find ways to do that. And it doesn't necessarily always have to be around, meeting in a bar or doing something that's considered manly. Like men can get together and talk. And I've seen, yeah,
Yes.
I've seen men's groups at like our church that were
Yeah,
fantastic when they created a safe space and they really shared and they
yeah.
uplifted each other. And I think that's, it's just huge. It's just really important for everybody.
I think there's nothing more beautiful than a vulnerable man. If
Yeah,
you're gonna
it's
ask
so
me.
true. It's
Right?
so true.
Right.
Yeah. And
One
that's
that can,
what the world needs. The world needs people willing to be vulnerable and willing to be authentic and really willing to look at what's going on and see how they can help.
yeah, yeah. We were talking about connection, and you and I are like big Brene Brown fans.
Always.
And so we're talking about this Atlas of the Heart, right?
Hmm.
So there's some beautiful quotes in here. I'm just gonna.
There's the book. I know it's going to be backwards probably, but fantastic, beautiful book too, because
Yes,
it's
yes.
got
And it,
gorgeous illustrations and
yeah, it is in like an encyclopedia though. Like
mhm,
you have to,
of
you can't,
emotions.
yes, you can't just sit down and read the book, but
Well, you can.
yeah. Well, you can. I
Yeah.
can't.
I
I
like
can't.
listening to it
Yeah, I fall
over and
asleep.
over again. Yes.
But I was gonna pull out one of these pieces. So belonging is a practice that requires us to be vulnerable, getting uncomfortable, and learning to be present with people without sacrificing who we are. So it's this
Yes.
whole thing of connection, community, love, and belonging. I think all those
Yes.
things continually go together, but it brings up some of the things we are just talking about, the vulnerability, right? I think people now are just, there's, well, first of all, we had a COVID thing, right? So 2 years, and then people are like, oh my God, like, most of us hadn't colored our hair in 2 years, and right. But yes, we love Marci's gray hair. Mine doesn't look anything like that, so I'm still blonde. But yeah, but I think a lot of people are still feeling very vulnerable about
Yeah.
being in social settings, about getting together in
I
groups
have heard people say that.
still,
Yeah.
right? People are pretty comfortable sitting on a Zoom call. Well, look at us, run a Zoom call, but
But
we
we get together. We really do act and we have, we're super fortunate because it kind of started with our spiritual community and that's where we met. But from that, we have a pretty tight, pretty amazing group of women who do get together, who make time for each other, who make sure we get together and have lunch or go and paddle on the American River or in Folsom Lake or take a walk, just taking time to get together. It's really important to do that. And then, talking about connection for me again, that spiritual community is a really important one for me. And I know everybody has their own thing. And, I've been in churches before when I was younger that I wasn't connected in the way of the community so much. But now with this spiritual center that I belong to here in the Cameron Park area, it's called the Amani Center. Um, I am volunteering and I'm there every Sunday and I'm part of what we call our Sunday experience, but I'm also involved with the prayer network where if people need help, we're retreating for them or praying. And we have events and we have social events and we have book clubs and we have classes. And that is largely my community, and it's vital. It's vital to my sanity. It keeps me, that, and then my friend groups, but it all kind of ties back. Everything came from there. I moved from Northern Virginia to Northern California in 2015, did not know anyone here, but because of that community, because I started attending, I met lots of just amazing people. So
You are a rock star in that community, just for everybody who's listening. Like, yeah, she doesn't just participate. Like she sort of is the Amani Center, but
Well,
yeah,
because it was so important to me when that center went through some tough stuff, I was like determined that it wouldn't fall apart because I knew how important it was to me, but it was also a lot of other people because I've heard those stories of what it means to them. And so finding that connection, that community is so important for all of us.
yeah,
And
yeah,
it can be challenging.
yeah. And we talk about our the youth a lot. Like, do they really have true communities
Mm,
now? Right? I guess they have their classrooms, and some are not even going to school anymore, or for all kinds of reasons, right? And then there's this the sports and those types of things. But I think it's difficult for those who are not able to participate in those big events. If you're not the cheerleader, how do those kids
yeah.
um, come into community? I
Yeah.
know, we talked about our new teen coach, and she talks a lot about this and how to get kids back out there and engaged back in the
Yeah.
world, right? Because
Yes.
we really do need these kids engaged in the world, because there's a lot of change coming.
There's a lot of change, and you need to be grounded into something. And, it kind of ties into this idea of service, sacred service, giving, volunteering.
Yeah,
That is such a huge piece of what can really turn your life from feeling alone and isolated and sad to feeling purposeful and
yeah,
giving back. And you cannot believe how you will be fed by giving back to a cause or some sort of community that you believe in, that is uplifting. That's going to come back to you so greatly. Like, you put some in, but you are going to be fed like incredibly. So this idea of getting kids and teens involved in nonprofits, in service some way, I think is really
yeah,
important.
yeah. And it brings up the purpose piece, right? Which
Yeah,
we've had
which
that
is so
discussion,
important.
which, by
Yeah.
the way, is also one of the components of the Blue Zone, right?
Yes.
So it is purpose. And for some of those little women who were 100 years old in Japan, like, their purpose is to get out and nurture that garden every day, right? Because they need the garden to eat the food, and that's
Yeah.
so the purpose is, everyone's purpose can show up in all kinds of
That's
shapes
right.
and
That's right.
forms, right?
Only
But
you can really know what your purpose is. But
yeah,
yeah, getting involved with something that goes beyond just yourself, that supports someone else, supports community, uplifts. It's really important. We talked about maybe doing for anyone else who's out there right now who's feeling this heaviness, isolation, anxiety, um, fear,
overwhelm.
overwhelm, all of the stuff. We thought maybe we'd lead a little meditation now that you could do along with us. If you're driving, obviously don't close your eyes. But if you're in a place where you can do this safely, I would encourage you to kind of participate. And we're not going to ask you to do anything too weird, but it's just more an idea of kind of getting quiet and going within and giving your nervous system a break from all of the stuff that can be coming at you.
I'm
Okay.
ready.
All
I'm
right. So
ready.
if this is your first time meditating, I would encourage you to maybe sit up nice and straight. If you're seated, you can also lie down. If you're in a chair, I like to put my feet on the floor because I like to feel grounded into the earth. You want to have a straight spine. So the idea is that you're kind of opening a channel within yourself that energy can flow through. And then if it feels comfortable, you can allow your eyes to close. If you don't want to close your eyes, you can just blur your vision, or you can even just focus on an object, maybe a lamp or a little statue or something, just to kind of let all the other distractions go away. And so as you kind of take this position, you receive a deep breath in, filling your lungs, allowing your belly to expand, and then you release all of that air. And then let's just do this again. We're slowing down the breath and we're focusing on the breath, bringing in that clean air, filling our lungs and belly, and then releasing that air. And then one more big deep breath, filling the lungs, letting the belly expand, and then releasing that. And now as you drop into this sacred moment, this moment right now, continue to breathe at a more mindful pace, in and out. And if there's any thoughts in your mind, any to-do lists or something that you've been worried about or something you feel you should be doing, I invite you to just set it aside for a few moments, knowing that you can pick it back up if you need to. Right now is your time to just be quiet, to be still, and to allow your mind to clear as much as possible. As thoughts come in, which is very normal, that's what the brain does, you can just acknowledge them and release them and return to focusing on your breath and the stillness. And so what I would encourage you to do at this point, as you feel yourself in this stillness, is just to sort of open up your mind and your heart to receive any message or any insight that you've been needing. If there's something that you've been struggling with, just open up to allow the answer to drop in for you. Your intuition is strong. And many times the answers to these questions or problems are right there for us. We just need to get still and take a moment to breathe and allow them to come in. And so normally you can sit in this silence really as long as you like. I would encourage you to make this a practice you use daily. For now, because we're on a podcast, I'm going to kind of bring us back to our awareness. And so you can begin to wiggle your toes or your fingers, start to feel back into your body in the space wherever you are as you come back to your awareness. And when you feel ready, when you're comfortable and ready, then you can just allow your eyes to open. And so that's just a very simple, somewhat short meditation, a way that you could start practicing. Again, if you were on your own, you could be silent for 2 minutes, for 10 minutes, for as long as that feels comfortable for you. That's not really great for a podcast, so we're not doing that today. But I hope that you participated, and I hope that somehow maybe this has allowed you to just calm down a bit. Maybe you received something in that time, some sort of insight. If you didn't, it can still come. Now you've created that openness, just kind of pay attention to your thoughts and to things that drop in, because again, something within you knows exactly what you need. And sometimes we just need to get a little quiet. So I think that's about it for us today.
I'm feeling so much better.
Oh, me too. Me too. I'm glad we decided to still talk, even though we lost all of our guests for the week. We knew we had something to talk about, and I hope it touched some some feelings for you. I hope some of you heard something that you needed to hear that maybe will give you some ideas for how to create that connection, how to walk through this. That's the other thing about what's going on in the world right now. You got to just keep moving. You got to keep walking through it. And sometimes I know for me, from my personal experience, once I got some insight, it didn't fix everything, but it gave me some clarity. And then what I realized is I just had to keep walking through that. And it took me a while. It took me over a week of feeling pretty down and pretty heavy. And then, kind of like Deb, then for like 4 days, I was sleeping nonstop. Not nonstop, but I was sleeping a lot at night, and I was taking like 1.5 hour naps and then still being in bed by 8 o'clock. So it takes it out of you, and you got to take care of yourself. So,
Yes.
So keep walking. Don't, just reach out. If you've got someone, reach out. Maybe read something inspiring if there's not someone you can call, and just keep walking. Keep walking through it.
Good advice. Good advice. Thank you, everyone.
Yes. Thank you for joining us.
Hopefully it's going to be a better week next week.
Yes.
Take care, everybody.
All right. Take care. And now for a moment about meditation and how it can help you and your family to self-regulate and mindfully return to a place of calm and centeredness. Our Cour Tools platform consists of a number of proven tools and techniques that are designed to reduce stress, anxiety, and overwhelm in spite of whatever's going on in your world. Meditation is just one of these powerful tools, and through a special partnership with Donna Epidone, we have created a group of meditations available only on our platform and via Donna's own website. Here's Donna.
I look at myself in the mirror. I reflect on what I see. I identify my biases. I see their origins. I see how I normalized them. Hi, I'm Donna Epidone. I'm the person who writes and produces meditations for this podcast and for the Cour Experience website. Biases, prejudices, we all have them. We may have learned them from other people, or we may have developed them by ourselves along the way. Biases don't have to be big things. Sometimes they're just little things. Maybe you like carrots more than you like potatoes. That's a form of a bias. This meditation invites you to look at where your biases are. Take a good look and see if you can identify them. That's all you have to do. You don't have to change them all in one day. But today, you can look for them and find them and acknowledge them. And as soon as you do, you might find that you really want to change them. Remember, whatever is going on with you right now, you can do anything you set your mind to do. I lead the way on the empathy path. I set the tone in what I say and what I do. I make empathy a priority in my life. I let everyone see how easy it can be. We look at ourselves in the mirror. We reflect on the goodness we see.
Donna's book, called Drive Time Meditations, is a collection of 183 of her purpose-driven motivators. Drive Time Meditations is available on Amazon.
Thanks for listening to the Warrior Parent Podcast. You can find us at courexperience.org. Make sure you join us next week for another informative conversation to help you and your family show up mindfully, purposefully, and joyfully with each other and in the community.
Our meditation segment is produced by Donna Appadone with music from Scott Holmes. The full collection of meditations is in Donna's book, Drive Time Meditations, available on Amazon and at donnaappadone.com. Thanks to Samuel Hale, LLC, for sponsoring this podcast. Technical and marketing support comes from She Reigns Creative and Inspire Your Brand. Opinions expressed by guests do not necessarily reflect those of the hosts, producers, or the financial supporters. I'm Debbie DiManno.
And I'm Marci Mitchell. The Warrior Parent Podcast is a production of Cour Experience.